Hey there, vinyl community. Listening to a little bit of music tonight, and thought I would make a video. Not about this record. This just happens to be what I'm listening to right now. Wonderful record. If you're not familiar with it, by the way. If you want to hear some great electronic music from the early, what year did this come out? 20 2021. No, no, no. What am I thinking? 2000, 2001, something like that. Anyway, so great record, the great history, and yeah, some of the best electronic music I've ever heard. So, anyway, but what I really wanted to kind of talk about a little bit was I've been buying up some, found a little honeypot of singles from the Detroit area. Most of them in the kind of garage, punk, power pop, uh, you know, period. And the area I like to focus on when I'm looking for stuff like that is right in that, to me, that sweet spot right between really loosely fitting between 77, 78, 79, 80, 81. To me, there's kind of this magic little period there for new wave, power pop, and not just from Detroit, but from all over the place, from across the globe, really. It just seems to me that there was a lot happening. And in fact, I made a video once about how it seemed like radio was changing and starting to accept all this new music, and then suddenly clamped down and in this kind of change that was about to happen with at least in the U.S. anyway. Just never happened. It never really came to fruition, and we never saw that kind of music revolution that probably should have happened around that period in 78, 79, with all these new artists. And then radio, commercial radio, reverted back to these tight playlists where they just wanted to focus on, kind of, the Led Zeppelins and Journeys and Styx and, very commercial aspect of music. Nothing wrong with those bands. I'm just saying this change that was happening just never really seemed to happen. But what I wanted to talk about was some singles that I've been picking up, and not just singles, but also some of my albums, and particularly from the Detroit area. And I've just been kind of focusing a little bit on buying up some of these 7 inches when I've been able to get my hands on them. So, I'll pull some of my old ones out too. And I'll try to go over these kind of quickly so that we don't spend too much time on it. But there's just a lot of really great music that came out of particularly the Detroit area that I think has been really underrated and really in a lot of ways neglected. We always hear about the punk singles from New York and from San Francisco and Los Angeles and of course London, but you certainly don't hear that much. You kind of hear the MC5 and the Stooges, but there was that tradition, that musical tradition, that underground was alive and vibrant in Detroit in that late 70s, early 80s period. And I was a little too young to really experience it for myself. Although I was old enough that I listened to radio a lot, and I read music magazines. As a kid, I bought Cream magazine, mostly Cream magazine, but also Circus and some other ones. And so you'd get a little flavor. And I remember, I'd always listen very excitedly, like the DJs. This is back when there was much looser formats on radio, and the DJs would talk to one another about gigs that were happening, and that the stations were sponsoring shows with bands, and they would mention a lot of these like bands. And so I would hear about them and kind of wanted to know more, and then occasionally I would see their music, so I'd be able to buy it. And anyway, it was just an exciting time, that late 70s, early 80s period. And started off with a couple, I think I've shown these before, a couple of very early Romantics singles. Romantics, kind of a power pop garage band from Detroit. These early singles are really nice. and they weren't yet on the major labels. And here's the other one. It's out to Carry, and it's on Bomb. And yeah, two early singles. All these tracks, I think, ended up on their first album. Which did I pull those romantic albums out? I don't think I did. Why didn't I? But they certainly um, ended up on those records. But these single versions are nice because they're a little bit different. So this was a single I picked up today. Actually, this is the Sillies, and they had kind of a, this is back in the days when you would occasionally hear local music on the radio, and sometimes during regular play, but then they would have sometimes special programs where they would allow the DJs to play local singles. And so you would hear songs like No Big Deal, which is a great track by the Sillies. And yeah, it's their 1979, the Sillies, Detroit garage punk band with catchy hooks and great single. And yeah, really, really good. Here's another band that, this is one I bought a few weeks ago, RUR, and it was really nice because when I looked through it, it still had the sticker that came with the original single. Another really catchy track called Go Baby. Check it out on YouTube. You can listen to it, RUR. And real catchy garage punk track, and cool single. You don't come across these very often anymore. I can remember seeing them in the bins back in the day, but you just don't come across much of these that often anymore. And I was really happy for it to have the sticker in it too. The next one, a song I've always loved, and this is a song that got quite a bit of airplay in the Detroit area, called So American. Very catchy track by the Mutants, Detroit's Mutants. And my copy has a little bit of, you can see a little bit of shadow wear there. But great little track. And yeah, this is a really catchy little song. Kind of a, simple track, but a lot of fun and made for some great. And this actually, like I say, this actually got quite a bit of play back in radio back in the day. And I can remember, bopping around the room listening to this as the teen, young teen or even preteen. And this would have been, I think, 1980, right around 1980. Let me check and see. They did another. There was another single that the band did too. Actually, no. This was 78. And I was going to show this later, but I'll show it right now because it kind of corresponds to it. Then there was an EP that the band did too, and it's the Motor City Mutants, and had So American on there. I think it's the same version. It might be an edit on the single. I have to look a little closer. Great little band though. You see these around, I still think you can pick these up. Pretty good price. Next is, great band, and they have great albums too, but found this single, 3D Invisibles, Graveyard Rockin'. They were great. If you like the Cramps, that little garage horror part of the spectrum, yeah, you'll love this. It came from a full length. The album is They Won't Stay Dead, which is a great album too. But yeah, nice picture sleeve, and I don't think the label was anything too. No, just pretty straightforward, but still pretty cool. Nice find. Here was another, just one of my absolute favorite songs, period, is a song by the Torpedoes, a song called Pop Star. And I don't know if I've shown the single before, but I have this song on a compilation too. I think I showed the comp. And but the 7 inch is really cool, and it's actually more like an EP. There are actually 4 songs on here, and there's a second uh, uh, single that they did too. All really good, well worth picking up, and I still think fairly affordable. If you like, I think actually this EP or 7 inch, whatever you want to call it, was actually dedicated to. See if I can find it. I think it was dedicated to Johnny Thunder of the Heartbreakers. Um, Recorded in Detroit, 1979, May 1979. It doesn't say, but I think on the inside it says that it was dedicated to Johnny Thunder. To me, this sounds like a long lost Iggy Pop single from that period. And Pop Star, great, great track. The Vertical Pillows were another local band. Great little band. Jump Back Run, pretty good single. A friend of mine actually did some of the artwork on their label, and always thought it looked really cool. A lot of these bands used to tap the Center for Creative Studies, which was like an art school in Detroit, and they came up with that pretty cool label, I think. But yeah, another local band. I know I showed this single before, but it's worth showing again. Muggsy. Great little. I remember seeing ads in magazines for Muggsy. Never saw them live or anything though, but they were certainly part of that scene. And the single was from doesn't say, from Ann Arbor. I think they were from '79. These are all from like that period. Now this next band I have quite a bit by, mostly because these guys all went to the same high school that I did, and they were kind of like local heroes. They were older than us, but this one song, which is on this single right here, the band is Bittersweet Alley, and the single was called Time to Move. And you want to hear a catchy little song that kind of should have been hit. It's Time to Move. Great little band. Wouldn't really call them power pop. Wouldn't really call them punk. Wouldn't really call them new wave. But they kind of morphed into all of those areas. But they did a number of singles. This one got quite a bit of local play in Detroit. Definitely it was a radio hit for a number of years, like when I was in high school and the first couple years of college. And yeah, you could actually turn on the regular radio and hear this track. Great song. But they did a bunch of singles. I think this was their first one. I think was actually, and it was called Saturday Insane. And there is a picture sleeve of this, which I have not been able to find yet, and but I'm on the hunt for. Did find a 7-inch though, and their next single was Just a Romantic, and you can kind of tell from the band, definitely always had kind of commercial aspirations, but yeah, look at that look. Just a Romantic. Gary Spaniel, all of these guys all went to the same high school I went to, and like I say, they were kind of the older kids who everybody kind of looked up to, but saw this band many times live in local clubs around the city. Forever is a ballad that they did, and Stop Spinning Around. This was more towards the end of their tenure, and yeah, a lot of fun. And this is when the band was changing. Gary was always the leader, and then little by little, Bill, who they called Mr. Bill, he eventually kind of became the lead vocalist, and the band changed, lost some of their appeal, but still good in their own kind of way. Next is this is kind of a Halloween was a heavy metal band from the Detroit area who got pretty popular. I mean, there were theaters that they would sell out. I mean, in the Detroit area, they could sell out 2, 3, 4,000 a night theaters, and they're hard to find those kind of places. There's only a few of them in town, but they would certainly do it. And yeah, Halloween, Detroit's heavy metal horror show, and they were, typical of that sound at the time. When was this song recorded? It says '84, so a little past. Well, we're talking about something a little bit different. I was never really a big metal head or anything, but Halloween was certainly a band I saw many times live back in those days at a place called Harpo's. There was a place called Harpo's, and we would go there. And this single actually came out after. It was a kind of a re-release. It was never. I don't think it ever got a release in '84, but I think some fans got together and found the band and got the rights to kind of put this out. And She's a Teaser, I remember, was a song that was pretty popular. And they published this kind of fan-orientated 7-inch. I saw it in the shop one day, and I just grabbed it right away and bought it. And I listened to it a couple times, and I kind of think that these are demos. So there might be a reason, if you really like this band, there might be a reason to hunt this down, because I think these versions of the tracks are a little bit different. And then just to keep in line, Wolf Eyes is a band currently around, kind of a noise band, pretty wild. They're actually on Third Man. This is on Third Man Records. And if you haven't heard this and you want to hear something a little bit different, yeah, check it out. Pretty wild. From that era, that late '70s, early '80s, this was the morning crew was WRIF, which is a radio station, had a early morning radio show, and they would make up versions of songs that were kind of hits. So they took, song in this the Wake Up song was the Greg Kihn Band, who had kind of a hit here in the Detroit area, and then they would do like their own versions with kind of silly lyrics and stuff, but kind of a little snapshot from that whole era, and pretty cool. So that's kind of it. I'll go through these albums really quick. Again, the Bittersweet Alley, and they did three records. Actually, this is an EP. This was the kind of later version of the band. And then Some Like It Hot, I know, was the band kind of in between. Version of the band in between. I show them mainly because I don't think you're going to see these very often. I don't think you're going to see people show these. They were kind of, if you're from kind of the Midwest or from Detroit area, I think you'd probably know most of these. But a lot of this stuff I don't think ever reached beyond, our little world back then. And in the same regards, a band like the Rockets, who they had a kind of a national hit with a version of Fleetwood Mac's "Oh Well." But they did they did more than two. They did 4 or 5 full-length records. I have 2 of them, and they were not, punk at all. This is kind of meat and potatoes, Detroit rock and roll, and but really strong albums in that regard, very listenable. And if you at all like that kind of thing, you can kind of tell from the album covers like where they would be coming from, kind of bar band for sure. But they wrote some great hooks and had a great lead singer, and shame they never really broke the way that they probably thought that they were going to. I mean, in the Detroit area, again, they could sell out fairly big theaters, and they were opening act for a lot of national bands when they would come around. The Rockets. Here's a band that some folks would have heard of, maybe. Toby Red. This is their first album. Now, a lot of people will know that later, the second version of this band, their second album, a certain member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who is from the Detroit area, joined and made their second album kind of notorious. I think it's actually getting a re-release. I don't know if they'll do a re-release of the first album. I much prefer the first album, which again has that kind of new wave feel to it, and full of great songs. Toby Red. And Here's another band that mid '70s, Mitch Ryder, Detroit, had a hit with a version of the Velvet Underground's Rock and Roll. The Look was another kind of new wave band from that period. 1981, had a radio hit with a song called We're Gonna Rock. And yeah, I think you can appreciate that picture of the band. Great little snapshot of Detroit rock and roll from that period. And so that's kind of all of it from that period when I was first starting to listen to music. A few other just quick Detroit-orientated albums. The Third Power was a band from the Stooges, MC5 period. A little more psychedelic, but definitely on the harder end of psychedelic blues, hard rock. Pretty good album. And one that I've seen kind of going up in price at one time. Used to find these everywhere cheap. Here's a band I think everybody kind of SRC. Great band. Had a hit at the time, or kind of regional hit anyway, with a song called Black Sheep. But this is another album that's starting to jump up in price. An album that you used to see all the time. I finally got myself a nice copy of it. And another great band from Detroit. The album is great, but the singles that came before this are really good too. And so the album doesn't tell the full picture of the band. The singles were more garagey. This is a little bit more garage mixed with kind of blue-eyed soul, like Bob Seger. I should have pulled my Bob Seger records too. What was I thinking? And finally, I'll just show the Amboy Dukes. These first two Amboy Duke records, to me, really good records. Obviously, Journey to the Center of the Mind, everybody knows, great single. And I know Ted Nugent, and I have my misgivings about him too, but he was certainly part of these two records, probably next to the MC5, stand right next to the MC5 and the Stooges, as far as like their prominence in the Detroit, rock and roll scene. And I should have pulled my Bob Seger records. I don't know what I was thinking. If I could find them right now, I'd pull them out. Not sure where I put them though. Anyway, maybe we'll make another video and I'll show the Seger records. I think I did make a video and I showed most of my Seger records anyway, so you've seen them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and sorry, a little disjointed, but I was just having a bit of fun listening to music, and I thought I'd make a video. Hope everyone's doing well. Take care of each other. These are crazy times, and maybe things are changing. We're at war. Another crazy, horrible, horrendous war. And people are dying, and people are being bombed for no reason. And, things can only hopefully get better. So, but we have to make it happen. All right, everyone. Thank you.